Whoa, buddy, put that thing back in its holster. We haven't gone anywhere.
I don't understand.
Check out the MichaelDukesShow.com for information on how to get access to the podcast.
Welcome to the party, pal.
The Michael Dukes Show.
I have 2 guns, one for each of you.
Firearms Friday.
As Thomas Jefferson stated, it is the right and duty of the people to be at all times armed.
Say hello to my little friend.
I say that the Second Amendment is, in order of importance, the First Amendment. The right to keep and bear arms is the one right that allows rights to exist at all.
The Michael Dukes Show. The right to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. Firearms.
From my cold, dead hands.
Friday.
This is my rifle, this is my gun, this is my body, this is my blood.
Firearms Friday.
Firearms Friday. That's right. Your one day a week where you get a chance to talk about issues related to the Second Amendment, gun rights, tips, tricks, tactics, laws, and more, all related to the gun culture and our favorite topic, the Second Amendment, here on the Michael Dukes Show. Good morning, my friends, and welcome back to the program, broadcasting live across the state of Alaska on this, your favorite radio station and or FM translator, and live around the world on the internet at MichaelDukesShow.com, plus Facebook, YouTube, Rumble, and pretty much everywhere else you could find us out there. Good morning and welcome to the program. We got a big show lined up for you today. Now, normally, Chris Chang, Top Shot champion from season 4 of the History Channel's Top Shot, would be joining us today on the second Friday of the month. But he has got another commitment this morning, so he's going to be jumping in with us next week. He asked if he could come in next week. We said yes, because that's how we roll. And so he's going to be coming in next week with us in hour 2. But today we are pleased to be visited by the spirit of Christmas past. It's our friend David Codrea, who writes for his own blog, which is the WarOnGuns.com, and also, of course, writes for AmmoLand and Firearms News, and he's written for Guns Mag. He's written for all over the place, and of course, he has been a stalwart defender of the Second Amendment in his writings for many, many years. We're about to join him in hour 2. It'll be you and me with some headlines, maybe some phone calls, and then we'll finish up on a lighter note, as we always do on a Friday, with our friend Willie Waffle with the entertainment and movie and streaming review for the weekend. And that's the full show for today. That's it. All right, we can go home now. Let's get here. David Codrea, War on Guns, joins us this morning, and we're happy to see him. Hello, my friend. How are you today?
Michael, good morning. We're starting to get some Alaska weather down here in Ohio, but we just got a little break in it, which means that I don't get an excuse to not get the remainder of the leaves up. So
oh, okay. So you're getting some Alaska weather, but you still have leaves, which means it's not really Alaska weather. Where's the snow, David? Come on, you're dreaming of a white Christmas, right?
Yeah, we had a little bit. It's melted. We're back up into the 40s right now, and so we'll see. We're expected to get some real cold snaps. I guess La Nina is what they're saying, that the United States is really going to get it. We had the Aurora Borealis, I guess, which was very, very prominent, except we've been covered by clouds, and that's on my bucket list. You know, I've seen the Southern Cross, and I want to see the Aurora Borealis, and I've never seen it yet.
Oh, wow, man. I tell you what, we had some, of course, we have a lot of Aurora up here, a lot of Northern Lights. And it was the wildest blood red, magenta, crazy stuff. Apparently, they saw it as far south as Mexico. So let's hope you get a clear day so you can see it here while this big thing's going on. But I mean, 40 degrees. Let's see, 28 degrees right now outside of on top of the world here in Homer, Alaska. 5 degrees in Wasilla, and it was 8 below yesterday in Fairbanks. So you're still a little on the warm side there for us, but it's okay. It's okay. You live there and you get it done. David, it's been a while since we've had you on the program, and since I think it was August is the last time we had you on the program, and you've been doing a lot of great writing, and of course you cover a lot of the firearms news. Before we get into any kind of the hot news of the day, I want to talk about your blog for just a minute, because it started out as a Blogspot blog for many years. In fact, that's when David and I, we've been talking with each other for 15 years now, something like that. I mean, it's been a while. And of course, tell me a little bit about the genesis of the War on Guns, which is at WarOnGuns.com. Used to be WarOnGuns.blogspot.com. That's how old this has been going on. Tell me a little bit of a genesis of the War on Guns and your website and what you do there.
Oh, gee, it has been a real long time. I think 2005 is that when the first post was on. It's been like 20 years, I think.
Yeah, I think so.
At least. And it's just a place where it's like my journal, okay? And it's my personal journal, the things that I see that are worth pointing out to me and that are worth pointing out to people who, read the blog. And it spins off on a lot of news stories. So there'll be a Second Amendment related story or a freedom related story in the news, and somebody will want me to cover it. And I get a lot of people, I call them War on Guns correspondents, and they send me news tips every day. I have to go to my email, and the basket is just filled up with many more than I can use. Okay. And oftentimes there's a lot of duplication, some people glomming on the same story and wanting to send it in and see other people get word of it. And I not only give word of it, but I also then have my own commentary that I put into it, where in many times, because I've been doing this so long, I will be able to have an observation that reaches back to something that I wrote 15 years ago that has relevance to what's happening today. And I think that that's particularly true because the so-called progressives, they don't have an original idea in their head, and they're continually resurrecting the old lies that didn't work 20 years ago, and they're trying them out on a new audience today. And so that's why it helps when someone who's been around as long as I have, has that institutional memory to be able to go back and show they're making the same arguments that didn't work the first time and brainwashing a whole crop of people. Then of course, the last thing that I do with War on Guns is it's a clearinghouse for my writing that I do for other people. As you mentioned, Ammo Land and Firearms News are the two that I'm writing for currently. But yeah, I've been with all of them. I started with Guns and Ammo, went to handguns, went to guns for 15 years, did American Handgunner for a little bit, and worked for JPFO. I'm trying to think of everybody that I've written for. But the bottom line is that that's my clearinghouse where I can now showcase the work that I do for other people and send some eyeballs over there so that they continue to think, well, maybe this guy's worth having on board. So.
Yeah, boy, JPFO, there's a blast from the past. Jews for the Preservations of Firearms Ownership, Aaron Zellman, who's a good friend of the show, and we had him on a lot back in the day before he passed away. But that was an organization that really, man, they did some fantastic stuff, and it's great to hear that acronym pop back up over the time. I find that WarOnGuns.com is a great place because it seems like you said, the left not only wants to retread and retry things that they've tried in the past, but they love to memory hole stuff that, things that didn't go their way. And David, sometimes you're just like gleefully bringing this stuff back up. Like, oh, you mean like this back in the day when you tried it's so great. I mean, it really is like the internet archive for gun rights in that regard.
Well, I'm glad that you mentioned Internet Archive because there is a site that has that exact name. They call themselves the Wayback Machine. And if not for them, we would have none of my original reporting on Operation Fast and Furious, which I was doing when I was writing for Examiner.com for many years. They brought me on at Examiner.com, and I became the National Gun Rights Examiner, and we expanded it and brought back people from all the major cities so that we would have a gun rights examiner for Detroit and a gun rights examiner for, I forget how many different cities that we had. But this is where I did my original reporting with Mike Vanderboe. His stuff is still on Sipsey Street Irregulars, but my stuff on Examiner, and I built up a volume. I called it the Journalist's Guide to Project Gunwalker, and had 8 volumes of news stories that we had compiled between the time we first started uncovering this plot to walk guns into Mexico that was abetted by the ATF, and all that would be gone, would be disappeared from the internet, because Examiner just decided to fire us all, repurpose the site to some crap. And so if not for the Internet Archive, we wouldn't have that history.
Yeah, no, it's great. And you got a little bit ahead of me, because I was going to just highlight the fact that you were, you worked with Mike Vanderboe, who was, and you two were instrumental in bringing the Gunwalker scandal, what probably the public knows as Operation Fast and Furious, into the daylight. And that was probably one of the biggest embarrassments for the Obama administration of their entire tenure. Because it got traction even in the liberal mainstream media. They had to cover it. It was such a huge story. They didn't cover it well. They didn't get all the facts right. And in fact, they passed some blame around to some other folks. But you and Mike were instrumental in pulling that all off. We should walk through that for just a second, just to see. I mean, what was the genesis of that like?
Okay, well, you have to go back before Brian Terry was murdered in the Arizona desert. He was a Border Patrol agent. They ran across a RIP crew and got in a firefight. And I understand that they had beanbags, and the RIP crew had real bullets. And the bottom line is that there were guns left at the scene of the murder that were tied into American gun shops. Okay, this, it turns out, was a plot to essentially, how do I put this? Have American guns found at crime scenes, of course, next to bodies, and bolster the lie that 95% of American crime guns come from U.S. gun shops. This was an attempt that they were putting on to try to ban so-called assault weapons. Okay, saying these are too dangerous because they're all going down to Mexico, and we have, all of these people being killed. Well, thanks to Fast and Furious, I guess, we have no idea what the body count has been with those particular guns. But Mike and I had been following this website called Cleanup ATF since probably 2009. And you have to remember that the murder in the desert happened in December of 2010. So we'd been on it for a while. And Cleanup ATF was a site that was put up by some dissident ATF agents, guys that were wanted to do the job. They were sick and tired of agency waste, abuse, corruption, and fraud. And they had all kinds of complaints about why the agency was run and the decisions that were being made. And at the time, we were trying to get House oversight to look into this and saying, look, we don't know if these guys are just disgruntled employees, or we don't know if they're onto something, but there's a whole body of allegations here. And it's incumbent on you as House oversight to investigate and find the truth of this. You have the subpoena power. You can go ahead and do this. And of course, it was run by Democrats at the time, and they didn't want to look into it at all. At the same time, they had an operation that they were starting to attack American gun shops by tying us in with the gun violence that was happening in Mexico by the cartels, with the ultimate goal of an assault weapon ban. Eric Holder had floated a trial balloon at least a year and a half before Operation Fast and Furious was exposed. And they were just, again, making all these allegations in the news about 80%, 90%, 95% of Mexican crime guns come from U.S. gun shops. And this was what they were essentially trying to do. It was called Operation Gun Runner, which, once the story was broken by me and Mike and guys that clean up ATF, I nicknamed Project Gun Walker. And so a lot of that has kind of stuck, and people still to this day will refer to it as Project Gunwalker and not realize where that term came from.
It's probably one of the most insidious things that I've really seen in my lifetime. When you boil it down and you look at it, you had forces inside the administration, forces that were working inside the ATF and the State Department that essentially had an agenda. That agenda was to villainize firearm sales in the U.S. And the idea was that the ATF would knowingly and willingly basically bully gun shops on the border into selling guns to what they knew to be straw purchasers. They knew that these guys were not buying the guns for themselves. And in fact, I remember reading a report, maybe it was from you or from somebody else, where you had actually talked to gun owners who had been working with the ATF in this and told the ATF, we don't want to do this anymore. This is crazy. This is dangerous. We don't want to sell these guns to this guy and this guy and this guy, because we know that we know they're buying multiple guns. We know they're buying them for somebody else. And the ATF said, oh, no, don't worry. We've got this. And essentially they were knowingly passing these guns across the border, as you said, to be used in crimes and left at crimes to try and basically to implicate U.S. gun stores and gun owners and the United States in these crimes, when it was the government itself that was doing this as a way to get political leverage to outlaw guns in the U.S. I mean, if that's not one of the most insidious things, and then you had the State Department that was carrying the same line, Hillary Clinton and her crew, the ITAR violations, all this other stuff that was going on from the State Department on top of it. I mean, this was a coordinated effort to try and disarm Americans by passing these guns across the border knowingly and arming violent criminals and gangs so that they could take guns from Americans.
I'm glad that you mentioned ITAR, International Traffic in Arms Regulations, because I unsuccessfully filed Freedom of Information Act requests with the State Department because there were one or two possibilities that happened. Either the State Department gave approval for that to happen, which would have been a violation of the law, and the State Department under Hillary Clinton, and or ATF never cleared it with the State Department. And in order to violate ITAR, you don't have to be the actual person that's doing the gun transfer to a foreign country. But if you aid and abet it, okay, and if you engineer it coming about, now there are criminal penalties. And this is why I was tremendously disappointed that the House Oversight Committee, once the Republicans took over, made great hay about, investigating it. And Eric Holder got held in contempt of Congress. And do you see anybody in jail? Okay. Did Eric Holder, I tried to get his file a bar complaint against him. And of course, the DC bar, they're all cronies, and they just, threw that one in the trash can and didn't do anything with it. But have you seen any real repercussions against the people that were responsible for this, understanding that people are dead because of it, and also understanding that right up from the front, they did not tell the U.S. attaché to Mexico. He had no idea this was going on. So when his Mexican counterparts in law enforcement are finding out about this, he doesn't know what to tell them. Okay. Right. And they don't know what's going on, ostensibly. However, what we really have to keep in mind is that when we read about the cartels getting into all these gun battles and things like that, how often are they using like belt-fed machine guns and grenades and rocket launchers and things that you can't get at a gun shop? And then it turns out that the Mexican government itself and law enforcement are so corrupt and in the pockets of the cartels. I did a story on for Firearms News, and it's about Mexico's top cop, and it turns out he was in bed with the cartels, and so I mean the U.S. government does these lawful transfers of military grade firearms to the Mexican military and the Mexican police, and they end up in cartel hands. Gee whiz, how does that happen? And of course, right. The Mexican government, they're going like this because of American gun violence and American guns, and there's lawsuits against gun makers, coming from Mexico, and it's a clown show, except it's a lethal clown show with dead people.
Absolutely. And that was the other thing that the State Department did. They signed off on all these transfers of military grade firearms to Mexico, knowing that a goodly portion of those would end up in the hands of the cartels. And of course, then you had cartels that were getting special forces training from former soldiers and getting all this. And so then now you had special forces cartel Zeta gangs running around on the border with military grade firearms. I mean, it's crazy. It is so crazy to dig back into this. And now this is 15 years old, right? But it's still there.
The Zetas started out as they were corrupt military and police, and they were like the protection arm for, I think, the Gulf Cartel. I forget all the people that they were, but they decided, why are we working for these guys? We can strike out on our own and become our own. And then of course there's all kinds of trails leading up to the Sinaloa cartel showing complicity with U.S. government officials, and the whole dang thing is just a mess. And it's still going on. I mean, we have Latin kings that are threatening ICE up in Chicago, for goodness sakes.
Right.
Okay? How far are we going to take this?
All right. I want to get into that here in just a second. We're going to take a quick break, and when we can continue, David Codrea. This is just we're just riffing here, folks. This is just a conversation. David's got so much knowledge and backstory on all this stuff. You're not going to find this anywhere else. David Codrea, WarOnGuns.com. We're going to continue with him here in just a moment. The Michael Duke Show. Common sense, liberty-based, free-thinking radio. We return to more right after this.
Running on 100% pure beard power. Oh, also some coffee. We dip our beard in coffee.
Nice beard.
The Michael Duke Show.
Okay, David Codrea is our guest here on the program as we continue on. Yeah, David has got, there's so much history wrapped up in this stuff. And like you said, it's still continuing today. I remember when Holder was called before Congress, and I was thinking, yes, finally we're going to get some I should have known better. Finally, we're going to get some answers. We're going to get this, going to get that. And then he just, again, the contempt of Congress, and it was a huge nothing burger. That must have just been crushing for you guys when you were going through this, because you thought maybe you'd got it across the finish line. Hell, you weren't even at the 50-yard line at that point.
Yeah, no, we first of all begged the various news agencies to get involved. Don't take our word for it. Here's the evidence we have. And of course, all they wanted to do was come in and Bigfoot us and have us rat out our confidential sources, which I wasn't going to do. I have emails, Michael, that I haven't released to this day because they were given to me under the assumption of confidence. And if it could trace back to the source that gave it to me, I'm sorry, but I'll be taking them to my grave with me. Okay, that's just the way it works. And to see Holder up there giving testimony, and I'll tell you right now, he perjured himself. I'm not afraid to say that he perjured himself. And here's how I know, because he said that this was in May when he was testifying, I think May 2011, when he was testifying in front of Congress. And he said that he'd just become aware of this whole thing like a couple of weeks ago, I think is what he said. Well, I have documents showing his aide, a guy by the name of Monty Wilkerson, okay, corresponding with, I think it was the U.S. attorney in Phoenix. This is like the night of Brian Terry's murder, and he tells him the AG has been informed. So the night of Brian Terry's murder,
wow.
Holder's aide is saying that he's been informed, and now in May he's telling Congress, well, I just heard about this a couple of weeks ago. Come on.
Yeah, no, it's so dirty, David. It's so dirty. And then to watch the way that they was handled, these gun dealers that were on the border of Arizona and Texas, and they were like, we don't want to do this anymore. We don't want to do this anymore. And the ATF's like, no, you got to. And of course, you got them over a barrel because the ATF is the licensing agency for these FFLs. And so when they say you do something, then you do it. And then when the whole thing breaks, what do? ATF says these rogue gun dealers on the border are selling to people. It was under the direct direction of the ATF. But people bought it. Oh, these bad gun dealers. It wasn't bad gun dealers. It was the government. Big surprise.
and they ended up with special requirements for reporting for the 4 border states for multiple rifle sales. And this is something I got to go back and resurrect and look into, because I need to find out if this was an administrative or if this was actually a law. You know, I'm ashamed to say I don't know what it was that caused the 4 border state rule to come into effect. But if it turns out that it was a rule as opposed to a law, how can you have a law that only affects 4 border states? You know, it seems to me equal protection. I don't know. I'm just kind of,
Right.
rambling on right here, right now. But if it was a rule, rules can be reversed by the president. I'm going to look into that. Maybe something came out of this, that we can go forward with, huh?
Yeah. If we get enough time today, I also want to talk about another law that could be reversed by the president that you wrote about back in, I think September. You were writing about the George H.W. Law on the assault weapons ban. We should get in, because Trump could do that. He could pencil whip that right now. And we should talk about that as well if we get a chance. One final quick question, Dave. I don't know if you know anything about this, but somebody asked in the chat room, and I've been wondering here for the last few days. KeepandBearArms.com, which is a clearinghouse for news from the Second Amendment or Citizens Committee for the Right to Keep and Bear Arms. That site's been down for like 3 weeks. Have you heard anything about what's going on with that?
No, how do I say this? I used to write for KeepandBearArms.com. I did a lot of my early internet work on KeepandBearArms.com. It changed ownership. Okay. It used to be run by a pal of mine, and he ended up selling it. It went to CCRKBA, as did JPFO. And the bottom line is, I'm not sure that they have managed to. I don't know enough about it. All I know is that I used to write for them years ago, and I don't anymore.
All right. Well, here we go. Let's go it.
What the hell is an assault weapon? Does that mean that if we hurt your feelings, you should consider the Michael Dukes Show assault radio? Okay, we can accept that. Here's Michael Dukes. Kind of a dick, but somewhat funny.
Just somewhat funny. I mean, a little bit. I'm kind of a jerk. I am. Welcome back to the program. David Codrea, our guest, WarOnGuns.com. We were just going through the back history of where David, really, I think how I really came across David to begin with was, of course, Operation Fast and Furious, what he called the Gunwalker scandal, which I thought was a much better term for it, because it was descriptive of what was actually happening. But we're still seeing some of this interference and some of these things today. We're seeing the outsized influence that the Mexican drug cartels and the influence from the southern border is having across the United States. And you just mentioned it, David, that we have it going on right now. In fact, you wrote about it in Ammoland here recently, talking about how now the border state, or the states where ICE is now making arrests of illegal individuals, and specifically Chicago, they've put out an open. I mean, this is open season on ATF agents from cartel affiliated gangs in these cities. It's happening that's about as far north as you can get from Mexico, and this is what's going on right now.
Yeah, I believe when in our conversation I said ICE as opposed to ATF.
I'm sorry, I meant ICE. Yeah, I'm sorry, I meant
right.
ICE.
Good. It's funny, Michael, that it's like I have this weird memory. Okay, and it just, people who know me understand it about me, so I'll share it, that I can remember things that interest me, okay, and things that stick with me. I can do Star Trek dialogue line for line, okay, but other things I forget, and somebody will ask me about an article that I wrote maybe a week or two ago, and I'll just go blank, okay, until they remind me of it. Then it all comes back. But the long term, it's weird how the memory kind of works. It's like there's file storage in there, and you got to open this drawer before you can get to the contents that are inside.
Right.
But yeah, it's far reaching, and I guess I'm just so disappointed that, number one, nothing really ever happened with Fast and Furious, and number two, we are still to this day forgotten names, Mike and myself, in terms of this. I just saw something come out 2 weeks ago from CCRKBA where they credited Sharon Atkinson of CBS News with breaking the Fast and Furious story. And she's a great gal. She's a wonderful reporter. She did a lot. She interviewed John Dodson, the main whistleblower and all this. But Mike and I had reported on this at least 150 reports before she ever got involved. We were the ones that talked to her and her producer, okay, before we decided that she was the one we would go to Dodson with and give our vote of confidence and say, we think this is the person who will do a good job. And she covered it well, and she deserves all the awards and all that. I'm not trying to take any of that away, but I'm just saying that, you know what? We were out there begging the news. We were out there dragging Congress, the Senate, and the House oversight with public pleas for them to get involved. And I'm sorry, but if you go to Wikipedia, you won't even find either my or Mike's name. And I guess I'm even more concerned about Mike because he's gone. He can't speak for himself. And I think that the man has a legacy that ought to be remembered. Yet, unfortunately, I see a lot of people calling themselves 3%ers, and they are advocating things that Mike would have never advocated for. They probably have not even heard of his name before. And it's people there are people making money off of the 3% concept. And yet they nowhere on their website will you see any credit for Mike Vanderboe as being the founder of the concept and the ideological leader of the movement. And right is right. And, so we're going to go to our graves and we'll be forgotten except by the people who love us, which I guess is reward enough, right?
Well, I hope so. I mean, I was always a little disgruntled that you guys didn't get the proper notoriety or at least acknowledgement that you were the ones that cracked this wide open. Whenever I talk about this, I always talk about the two of you because you guys were on the ground pushing hard. And Cheryl Atkinson did a great job. And she even herself paid a price for that too, because she got ostracized for trying to bring this to the light. But you guys are the ones that laid all the groundwork for this. And it is sad. But and what's sad is that it seems like almost nothing has changed. Right between now and then. I mean, between now and then, we've had, force reset triggers. We've had bump stock bans. We've had all this other kind of stuff. The ATF continues to work against the American citizenry. And I'm sure you still have, disgruntled ATF agents in there. But I'm sure just for every one of those, you probably got another yes man who's just there to do his job and wants to do whatever he can do to please the higher ups. And this is the organization that we're still facing today.
Yeah, this is why I know they took a lot of bad press for J6, but the whole concept behind Oath Keepers is such a wonderful concept and so dangerous to the government to think that a law enforcement officer would question an order. Is this a lawful order? And to think that the Uniform Code of Military Justice is going to apply that you can't just follow orders. We go back to Lieutenant Calley and the My Lai massacre. There's some orders you just don't obey. Go and disarm these people in Hurricane Katrina. That's not an order that should be obeyed. A person who took an oath to the Constitution needs to understand what that oath means. And yes, they would get in trouble if they disobeyed. It'd probably be a long, drawn-out battle for them. But you know what? I'm not going to ask of any person something I won't ask of myself. And I'm here to tell you, you can just don't throw me in that briar patch, right? You can do whatever you want to me. I am not, just like, what's my parallel is that you could subpoena me, I guess, if you had the Democrats in power, and say, okay, give up your emails with the sources and I'll go to jail. No question about it. They understood that when they were talking to me, and it was in that understanding. And I'm sorry, but people with honor understand this, that what? We're gonna just fight to the last, because otherwise what are we even here for?
Right. Well, and that leads me to one final question before we go to break again. How do you think we're doing in the war on guns? Speaking of war on guns, how do you think we're doing here as a Second Amendment? I mean, it seems like we've got some wins, but it's like for every step forward we take a half a step back, right? I mean, it just seems like we're doing better. We've got, Heller, McDonald, Brune. We've got some great decisions on our side. We've had some freedoms come up. We've had some other things, but still the fight continues. What's your overall take on the war on guns right now?
We have the most remarkable presidential administration in terms of the Second Amendment I have ever seen in my life. However, it's turned out to be bipolar, so that you have the Justice Department out there defending laws that they know are infringements. And I think that the whole problem, not the whole problem, but I think much of it could be alleviated if they had a Second Amendment task force that included leaders from the quote unquote gun rights community that would be able to advise them on laws, on legal cases, on all the different things that we're going through, on ATF rules, on judicial appointments, on everything else before the decision is made. And you wouldn't have this back and forth where right now you had the Firearms Policy Coalition. I was very proud of them. They basically put out a statement taking Trump to task and saying, you know what, you talk a good game on the Second Amendment, you talk about our beautiful Second Amendment, but when push comes to shove, you got the Justice Department out there that are defending infringements in court. That's no good. That works against us.
And he's got a great opportunity, as I mentioned earlier. We'll talk about that here on the other side. He's got an opportunity to reverse some infringements and some things that happened under the H.W. Bush administration that we could change right now. We'll talk about that here in a second. David Codrea, our guest. You can find him at WarOnGuns.com. He writes for Firearms News and AmmoLand and more. We'll be back. Don't go anywhere. The Michael Duke Show. Common sense, liberty-based, free-thinking radio. We'll return with more right after this.
We're broadcasting live through a series of tubes.
Allowing all of these entities to provide streaming stuff going on the internet.
Well, it's kind of hard to explain. Sorry. Streaming live every weekday morning on Facebook Live and MichaelDukesShow.com.
Okay, David Codrea continues with us as our guest here this morning on the Michael Duke Show. Thanks for continuing on with us and going forward. David, I watched this and I'm glad you brought up the fact that you and Mike were the two instigators of the coverage of the whole Gunwalker and Fast and Furious thing. That is, to me, as you dig into this, and if you go back and you read David's writings and you go back to Sipsey Street Irregulars where Mike was writing and he talked about it a lot, when you look at how deep this rot goes into our government and into our country and what they were doing and just the kind of audacity it takes to bring in whole government agencies to undermine the rights of citizens. You guys should have gotten a Pulitzer for this thing. You guys should have, for reporting and everything else. This should have been, people should have been outraged by it. And yet it was spun. It was poo-pooed. It got some coverage and then it just kind of quietly went away. This is one of the biggest scandals, government-run scandals, I would say right up there with Tuskegee and, MK Ultra and some of these other, things that were done to the American people in the name of whatever. This is right up there with those kind of issues.
Yeah, it's like it's kind of funny, but I call them authorized journalists. Over the years, that's changed. It's been fourth estate, fifth columnist. Now I call them the DSM, the Durante Stryker Media, named after Walter Durante, Stalin's apologist for the New York Times, and Julius Stryker, who was a Nazi propagandist, ended up getting hanged after Nuremberg. And the bottom line is that the media as it exists today, rather than being government watchdogs, they're government lapdogs. They're particularly interested in advancing the agenda of the Democrat Party. And it's really kind of disgusting to see what journalism, which has this wonderful potential, could do, and to see that in fact what they are is they repress, they go through lies of omission, the way that they present things. You know, they'll still call Fast and Furious a botched gun sting. Well, it can't be a gun sting unless you're trying to do a gun sting. How are you going to trace the guns to the cartels if you just let them cross the border and then let them run wild? You know, you're not, the only way you're going to trace them is when you find them next to a body at a gunfight scene. Okay.
Right.
You know, it's like, are you out of your minds? And yet people buy this. The American people, Michael, unfortunately, are disengaged. And maybe as a whole, we have it too good. Our bellies are too full. Our houses are too warm. We have too many material things. I don't know what it is, but it's what I call profiles in apathy, and citizens just don't get involved. I was in on an NRA call the other night. It was an NRA webinar where they were trying to explain what the new NRA is all about and how they're recruiting volunteers to help with all of their various efforts and things like that. And there were only 37 people on the call, Michael. Okay. This had gone out in emails. I'd posted about it on my War on Guns blog. I know that thousands and thousands of people saw the message. Okay. And yet there were only 37 people who decided to get involved and, you know, see, number one, is this NRA 2.0 worth trusting again after all the scandals that they went through? And number two, what is it that they're doing and what is it that we can help with? And I call this profiles in apathy. I've seen it happen time and time and time again. And we just saw it happen again in Virginia, where a confirmed gun grabber, Abigail Spanberger, and a confirmed gun grabber who wants Republicans with bullets in the head and their children dying in their mother's arms, Jay Jones, were reelected. And right. Republicans were wiped out. And yet there are untold tens of thousands of gun owners in Virginia that never voted because they're low propensity voters, meaning they only come out during presidential elections. The rest of the time, I don't know what the heck it is they're doing. But if you can't even be bothered to vote, then how can you be expected to do all the other things that are necessary to win an election? And I've worked elections, Michael. I know you got to gather signatures. I know you got to go house to house and do door knocking. I know you got to do phone banks. I know you got to go down and do poll watching. You know, that's one thing I did with a buddy of mine who was running for assembly in California. And I would go down there and look at who voted. And then we'd go and we'd call, you know, on the phone people that, you know, why aren't you getting down to vote? Okay. And yet you get a whole, well, there's no voting our way out of it. Well, you know, it could be a self-fulfilling prophecy if you really believe that. It sounded like a ding. Are we up for going back live?
We're getting close. 20 seconds here. And you're 100% right. Profiles in apathy. That's exactly what we're dealing with across the country, not just in Ohio or Virginia or California. It's everywhere. And I'm with you, man. It's a frustrating thing, especially for those of us who are out there trying to pump that pump. It's a frustrating thing, to be sure. All right, we're 7 seconds out. We're going to continue here. David Codrea, our guest, The Michael Duke Show. Common sense, liberty-based, free thinking radio. Let's go.
What the hell's an assault weapon?
You know, if we could just figure out how to get all of the murder guns and the attack guns and not keep selling those to people and just sell protection guns, I think that would be great and solve a lot of problems.
Does this mean that if we hurt your feelings, you'd consider the Michael Dukes Show assault radio? Okay, we can live with that. Here's Michael Dukes.
That's right. Nothing but protection guns. David Codrea, he had checked all his guns. He looked on the tags before he bought them. And they all said that none of them said murder guns or attack guns. They're all protection guns. We're back here. David Codrea, WarOnGuns.com is our guest. One final segment here this morning. We've been talking about things that the president could do and things that we could do to try and get it all together. You have a great article that came out here a while ago over at Firearms News talking about how And you were just talking how about the Trump administration is a little bit bipolar. They sound great. They've done some good things for the Second Amendment, but at the same time, they're allowing the Department of Justice to run amok and still prosecute cases that they know are infringements. If the president really wanted to take a stand with a single stroke of a pen, he could end one of the biggest infringements that's been around since 1989 under H.W. Bush. Give me the dirt here.
Yeah, essentially what we're talking about is a ban on the importation of foreign semi-automatic weapons. Okay, and the reason is that you got to go back to the Gun Control Act of 1968, and they come up with their sporting purposes clause, which, you know, we mentioned JPFO earlier in the broadcast, and JPFO had a great article written during the Aaron Zellman days about how sporting purposes came directly from 1938 Nazi law. Okay, and so when we start using sporting purposes, you know, we're the Second Amendment. We're not supposed to be about duck hunting. However, ATF had basically written a rule, I believe it was, that said that because these could not be sporting purposes, they were like military, and therefore we couldn't import them. This was under George H.W. Bush the elder, the guy who quit the NRA. And the bottom line is that this was done by rule, and Trump could very easily have ATF rewrite the rule and declare that, I know I just, you know, badmouth sporting purposes, but that's a way to do it. Okay, is you know, classify these things as sporting arms, as they are in the United States for domestic manufacturers. So why should there be a difference between whether this was made here or whether this was made over there? And now all of a sudden you could open up, and you could do the same thing for ammunition. Okay, that can't come into this country, because I guess the Biden administration tried to get back at the Russians because they apparently used some kind of toxic or radioactive material to assassinate somebody. I don't have the whole details on that, but the bottom line is that it still hasn't actually been proven, but the rest of us are getting punished for that with a ban on the Russian ammo. And so I saw a thing, what prompted me to look into that was the old argument about, well, are AKs or ARs better? And well, AKs are falling out of favor because ammunition is so expensive now, so it no longer has that advantage. And that got me thinking, well, why is the ammunition so expensive now as compared to what it used to be? And of course, that leads to that answer that, in fact, it's been artificially interfered with by the government. Okay.
Right.
You know,
yeah, no, they banned the importation. Remember, that was under the final years of Obama. They started that ball rolling, and they got the ammunition bans rolling. And when, you know, a gun without ammo is a glorified club. And if you couldn't get a reasonably priced rifle because they banned the importation under Bush, and then you couldn't get ammo to feed it under the continued under Biden, yeah, you've got a problem. The president could fix this with a single order. And if he's serious about this, he would do that. But again, I think, like you said, a little bipolar. He's got one person whispering in one ear, one person whispering in another. He's trying to read the room. And he's done some great things. Don't get me wrong, but I don't think he's as strident as he should be on the Second Amendment.
Well, this gets back to something else. I've had people write to Firearms News because I will write an article criticizing something Trump has done. Okay. And you fire this guy, or, you know, you cancel my subscription. Okay. And I'm not attacking Donald Trump, for goodness sake. I am pointing out where he's being inconsistent. And the reason that I'm doing this is, number one, my loyalty is to our rights, okay, as opposed to any man, okay? We can't be afraid to call him out, because I desperately want the Republicans to win the midterms. But if they're taking the fire out of the bellies of gun owners to where they're saying there's not a dime worth of difference between the two parties, or there's not enough difference to motivate me to come with profiles and apathy again, to show up and vote, you don't be taking the fire out of the bellies of gun owners by doing all these things that are bipolar that make them wonder what the hell's going on. We elected you under the promise that, it was all going to be, free bubble up and rainbow stew. And instead, what we're getting more infringements out of you guys. And
right.
So it's like the emperor's new clothes, Hans Christian Andersen. The emperor had, these con men convince him that they sewed him these fancy new duds. And of course, he was buck naked. And none of the lick spittles, none of the sycophants would dare tell the emperor, hey, look, you just got conned, you're naked, and you're running around in front of all these people. They all, oh, these are fine clothes. This is wonderful. You look great, Your Majesty. And we see this with a lot of the gun groups that are fawning up to Donald Trump because they don't want to lose access or anything like that. And they know that you got to please the guy because, face it, he does have a massive ego. But the bottom line is, unless you're willing to tell the emperor that he has no clothes like a little boy did at the end of the story, well, I'm that little boy. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
If the emperor has no clothes, I'm going to call it. If you want to write the magazine and tell him to, can me for it, well, then I guess, that's the way things are going to go.
Well, it's balls and strikes. You got to call balls and strikes when you see him. I've said the same thing. I mean, I said it before he was elected the second time. I said, I'm very concerned about some of his commentary. We'll take the gun later and worry about due process, or we'll take the guns now, worry about due process later. His implementation of the bump stock ban, he's got a checkered past on this, and he seems to be a lot more, a lot stronger and a lot more strident now. But again, this kind of dichotomy between what he says and what Pam Bondi and the DOJ is doing and things like that. He's got an opportunity here to solidify that and to pull it together. Go ahead.
Help us help you, Mr. President. Help us help you. And a great way to do that would be if we had representatives of gun owners included as integral partners in the Second Amendment things that are going on with the Justice Department. Okay. Yeah. Biden was able to put in the Office of Gun Violence Prevention and bring in, every counters and people like that. There is no reason why, and I understand that there are legal hurdles you have to jump through, that you can't just have a pure task force that brings in outsiders, but there are other ways to do it and ways to create public oversight that you could, in fact, do it. And to say you can't is just an excuse.
David Codrea, WarOnGuns.com is where you'll find him. David, quickly, you working on anything new we need to be watching for here?
Let's see. I have an article that's going to be coming out on Ammo Land probably today. And what the heck did I even write about? I told you my short-term memory just goes nuts. I guess we'll find out when it gets published. And I have another article I'm doing for Firearms News. Trump has recommended an alternative to Thomas Massey in Kentucky. I sent the guy a gun rights questionnaire with permission to do it. We're going to come back and we're going to post what the answers were.
Good deal. Good deal. We'll all be surprised. That's the fun part when it comes back. David Codrea, WarOnGuns.com. Thank you, my friend. Hold the line for a second. Folks, we're out of time. Hour 2 is dead ahead. The Michael Duke Show and Firearm Friday. Yeah, David, I know I've taken the same slings and arrows from people who are like, I can't believe that you don't like Trump. I'm like, I'm just saying, when the guy does stuff great, I talk about it. When he does stuff that I think is inconsistent or wrong, I'm going to talk about it. This is not a cult of personality, right? They want it to be, but that's not what it should be. If the guy is going to be strong on the Second Amendment, be consistent and be strong. And there's good opportunities out there. Why aren't we taking it? I had high hopes when he put that directive out for Bondi and company at the DOJ that they were going to change tunes and change tax on some of this. And they went halfway. And that's the problem.
Michael, we are in an existential fight in this country. Okay. Existential. If the Democrats, which are increasingly going communist, okay, AOC is probably going to replace Chuck Schumer. You thought Schumer was bad. Wait till a communist gets that seat. And the country is increasingly going that way. The blue states are getting more and more radical. Hopefully they'll implode on each other. Hopefully they'll do things so dastardly that the general public will just be horrified by it. But we are in a fight for our lives. We're not going to win this fight if we bury our heads in the sand. And let me just give an analogy, a one-on-one fight. Are you going to win if you close your eyes?
Exactly. No, I mean, that's the apathy. We're just like, close your eyes and think of England, honey. That's what's going to happen. I mean, what I mean, what are we going to do? We either got to stand up and take care of it, or now I'm bolstered by, again, some of the court cases, by the fact that there's more and more minorities, women, and even people who are moderate or left who are buying firearms, and they're getting into the culture. And there's some good news, but we can't sit on our laurels. This is a fight. I mean, it is a war on guns, and we've got to pick up something in this fight and take a stand.
I'll tell you what I do find encouraging is that I'm finding more and more voices out there that I'm recognizing same arguments that I've been making for years and getting attacked for by the gun community for being too extreme. And so I find that encouraging that I'm seeing a lot of what, I had gun rights activists that are just, hoping to find my quote unquote bullet riddled body in a ditch. Okay.
Wow.
What are you going to do?
That's a positive note, but again, you've been out there fighting the odds for years. I would not have been surprised during Gunwalker if you hadn't, been disappeared at one point or another because of the coverage of it. I mean,
that was a concern.
Yeah, no, it's absolutely a concern. I mean, and Cheryl, again, going back to Cheryl Atkinson, who you fed all this information to, she saw her life turned upside down over it as well. But it happens. You don't fight the establishment unless you're willing to take those slings and arrows and give up your lives, your honor, and your fortune, and your sacred honor. Those kind of things. You got to keep fighting those fights. And I know that you're doing it. I know that you're staying on top of it. And boy, I really appreciate you coming on board and sharing with us today and talking with us, because without your coverage of a lot of this stuff, we wouldn't see it. I wish there were more people who were absolutists like you and me. We're basically saying the only law we need is the Second Amendment. Everything else is an infringement. That's not a popular opinion, like you said, among a lot of gun folks, but it should be. That's where we should be, is at an absolutist position.
Good. Michael, thank you so much.
Thanks, David. I appreciate you coming on board. It's good to talk with you. Have a happy holidays if I don't talk to you between now and then. Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, Happy Thanksgiving, all that stuff. David Codrea.
Same to you, Michael. Best to you and your family.
Thanks so much. David Codrea, again, WarOnGuns.com is where you'll find him. You can go out there and check it out, and you should, just go out there every day. Put it up on your list of things to look at every day. You'll find something interesting as you go through there. Oh, I mean, it's great and it's invigorating. At the same time, it's totally frustrating to watch some of these things go on and some of this stuff happen. Right? I mean, it's crazy. Oh, Brian just brought it down to the base level. He said, when you strike at the king, you must kill him. I mean, if you're going to go to the fight, you got to fight to win. That's what it's all about. All right. I guess I haven't had the phone lines up or running yet. So I guess we should get the phone lines up and running, just in case some of you want to sound off on, whoops, it's not what I wanted to do. Let me go back over here and see if we can get things ready to rock and roll. Let me go back to where I was supposed to be, and we will see if we can get the phone lines up. Don't forget, Willie Waffle is going to be joining us, of course, here in just a bit, and we'll be doing the weekend movie review and more. And don't forget that I'll also be doing the big radio auction right afterwards this morning as well. That'll be thanks so much. That'll be fun. We'll get that going. You get a chance to save some big money. So we'll be checking that out, and I will continue to I'll still stream that here. So if you want to stay on the stream and catch that where you can't catch it somewhere else, you could do that here in just a bit. Okay. I think I got the phone lines up. Let me adjust this where it needs to be. And we should be.
All participants are muted.
Yep. Look at that. We're good to go. So phone lines are open. 319-527-3864. The Michael Duke Show. Common sense, liberty-based, free-thinking radio. We're going to continue with hour 2 in just a sec.
Whoa, buddy. Put that thing back in its holster. We haven't gone anywhere.
I don't understand.
Check out the MichaelDukesShow.com for information on how to get access to the podcast.
Welcome to the party, pal.
The Michael Dukes Show.
I have 2 guns, one for each of you.
Firearms Friday.
As Thomas Jefferson stated, it is the right and duty of the people to be at all times armed.
Say hello to my little friend.
I say that the Second Amendment is, in order of importance, the First Amendment. The right to keep and bear arms is the one right that allows rights to exist at all.
The Michael Dukes Show. The right to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. Firearms.
From my cold, dead hands.
Friday.
Take my rifle, this is my gun. This is for fun, and this is for fun.
Firearms Friday.
Firearms Friday, your chance to sound off on issues of a Second Amendment nature right here on the Michael Dukes Show, broadcasting live across the state of Alaska on this, your favorite radio station and or FM translator, and live around the world on the internet at michaeldukeshow.com. It's, man, we just finished up with David Codrea from WarOnGuns.com. He came on to talk. We got a big history dump there on where he came from, his opening coverage of Operation Fast and Furious, what was known as the Gunwalker scandal during the Obama administration, and some of the history behind that and how crazy it was, and how today we could, there could be some more changes. The president could, on his own merits and on his own impetus, make some changes to laws that would embolden and make it better for Second Amendment holders here in the United States. But if you missed it, I recommend you go back and listen to it on the podcast. You'll find it wherever you find podcasts, Spotify, Caster, Stitchbox, everywhere, just iTunes. Go out there and check it out. We'll be posting it up as a podcast here right after the show this morning here. Couple things, housekeeping here for those of you who are going to be sticking around at 8:00 this morning. I'm going to be kicking things off for the big statewide radio auction. It's the holiday radio auction. And for those who've participated in the past, you know what I'm talking about. I'm talking about the big auction where we auction off tons of items, from gift certificates to restaurants or hotels, boutiques, tattoo shops, repair shops, big ticket items. It's going to be a fun time this morning from 8 to 10 a.m. And we'll be broadcasting that here across the state. We're going to broadcast it here on stations down here on the peninsula as well. And so from the peninsula all the way up to Fairbanks through Anchorage and the Matsu, you're going to get a chance to save big on items to fill up your Christmas stockings. It's a great way to go out there and get all that taken care of and enjoy themselves. So don't forget to tune in. We'll be doing that starting right after 8:00 here this morning. We'll be kicking things off and be ready to go. You can find all the items up, and you can go take a preview at them right now at AlaskaRadioAuction.com. AlaskaRadioAuction.com. You can see what's available, and the purchasing for that is going to kick off right there at 8 a.m. So go do it. Frank just said, if you tell everyone about the auction, Michael, it makes it harder for me to win. I know how it is, Frank. It's okay. It's okay. I'm sure you'll still get your fair share of all the great stuff that's going to be available on the auction here in just a little bit. Willie Waffle will be joining us here at the end of the show here, and we'll be doing the entertainment news and reviews and everything else. That'll be kicking us off here at the very end of the show today. But here in hour two, I've got a few headlines that I want to get to in regards to the Second Amendment, and I have opened up the phone lines for your thoughts on anything. If you want to comment on stuff that David was talking about or anything else related to the Second Amendment, now's the time to do it. 319-527-3864. 319-527-3864 if you want to sound off to firearms in the Second Amendment. Now is the time to do it. It's going to be it's going to be an interesting take here on some of the things we're going to cover. So I think we'll start off this morning with a discussion on what happened in Anchorage. And we're going to talk about this because this is relevant to us. And I'm talking about what happened at the soccer match in Anchorage at the soccer dome. Can't remember what it's called. It's the big dome, Fox Hollow Sports Dome is what it's called. So this happened this last weekend, Saturday morning. A confrontation took place between two parents. It all started as people were leaving the facility. Apparently a soccer game had broken up or whatever. And one man who was driving his vehicle, allegedly, I guess I should say, got too close to another kid, drove too close, almost ran over a kid, or that was the implication. The mother of the child started yelling at him, and apparently his reaction was indifferent or something else. The father of the child got involved and started yelling, and it turned into a shouting match between the two fathers. At one point, the accused, Luke Charles Simonson, returned to his vehicle, retrieved a firearm, and then shot the father, Timothy Grossdidier, to death in the parking lot in front of his wife and the children, and all the witnesses were there. An off-duty officer happened to be in the parking lot, heard the gunshots, and ran towards the truck where the shooting happened. The officer saw Simonson holding a handgun and Grossdidier lying in front of the truck with multiple gunshot wounds. Now, Simonson's reaction to this was, "Oh, he was coming at me. I was in fear. He was charging me," even after he pulled the firearm. Dashboard camera video provided by to police by someone in the parking lot shows that the man does walk around the front of Simonson's truck. And Simonson can be seen getting his gun out of the truck, rather, with his gun drawn, and immediately shoots the man. It didn't look like, they said they didn't hear Simonson give a warning shot or a command. It didn't look like Grossdidier was approaching him, was rushing him, was attacking him, all this kind of stuff. Folks, this is a perfect example, in my opinion, based on the information that I have right now, based on the reporting and of the police report that was filed. This has all the hallmarks of a bad shoot. And what I mean by that is, if you are going to go forth armed in today's society, you have to understand what the law says and what the law does, and what it means to be in fear of your life, and to understand that the use of lethal force has serious consequences. And it is there's a whole different set of, there's something else in here that I don't even know if I want to report on what this Simonson guy does for a living, because it's grotesque when you think about it. But what this looks like to me, again, based on the information and facts that I have right now, is that this Simonson guy, I guess little man syndrome. Several people reported that it looked like he was spoiling for a fight or looking for a fight. After he shot Gross Didier, the wife tried to come over and render aid to her husband, and Simonson put her at gunpoint and told her to back off and get away from him. She couldn't even render aid to her husband because she was under the gun, so to speak. Now, I understand that, that a jury is going to have to decide this, whether or not he was in fear for his life. There appears to be video evidence of all this stuff going on. But I just got to say, again, you have to understand, just because you have a gun doesn't mean that you're required to use it. That we can talk about defensive gun use in this country, and that because defensive gun use happens 2.5 million times a year, and the occurrences of shootings are much lower than that, you can infer that many times the mere presence of a firearm is enough to stop whatever's going on, right? You don't have to use it. Now, why this man felt like in a shouting match or in some kind of argument over whether or not he was driving too fast in a parking lot, why he felt like he needed to escalate it to the point to retrieve his firearm is a question for him. And I can't answer it. But again, from all outward appearances, this is just another example to me of somebody who had a firearm and little training on what it meant to legally use it and protect themselves. Now, again, maybe I haven't seen the videos. The videos haven't been released. Maybe there will be a video release that we can take a look at. And maybe I'll change my tune. But as of right now, this to me is an example of what not to do when you are armed and in a confrontation like this. It's sad. And this kind of stuff is taking place around the country. Now, there are good shoots. There are plenty of good shoots. We saw it in, was it Dallas? It was just the other day. Coleon Noir did a coverage of it. Guy was in his car and he was approached by 4 men, and it was a nice car, sports car. And they talked, and then all of a sudden the 4 men pulled their face masks down, pulled out guns, and attempted to carjack him. And he ended up wounding 2 of them and sending the other 2 fleeing, and was able to defend himself and protect himself in the commission of a crime. I mean, this is a totally different situation. An argument in a parking lot over whether or not somebody was driving too fast. I mean, I have a lot of questions. Let's just put it that way. I have a lot of questions. But on the surface, as I see it now, with the information that I have, this looks like this guy's going to get prosecuted. His life's ruined. He's obviously killed someone else. Their lives and their families are ruined and wrecked because of this, because someone had a firearm and felt like because they had a firearm that they had to use it. That's my hot take on it. All right. I understand it's a hot take. But you have to understand what the law says and what the thing. And just because it's a heated argument, you cannot let the emotions of the day get you on this. You cannot do it. I mean, there was, the worst part is there was another story, which I haven't even really read all the details of yet, just the headline. The Anchorage man convicted of murder after jury finds that he shot a neighbor amid a noise dispute. You shoot somebody and kill them over the fact that they're making noise. I mean, it just makes no sense whatsoever. So if you're deciding to go forth armed and doing what you protect yourself and those, you damn well better understand what the law says and understand what your rights are and what your responsibilities are as a gun owner as well. Because it's situations like this that you think simply because you have the tool, you must use the tool. That is not the mindset to go into in something like this. 319-527-3864 is the phone number. Ron's on the phone. Let's get him on before we go to break. Good morning, Ron. What's on your mind, my friend?
Well, it's a fairly simple equation or statement, I suppose, but there are 3 words that have to be kept in mind, and they apply to virtually all armed situations. And those words would be opportunity, ability, and jeopardy. And minus any one of those elements, you cannot use that firearm that you have.
Yeah. No, absolutely. You literally have to be in fear of your life. And I think he was trying to drip that in there by saying, oh, the guy was charging at me, even after but again, there's video that doesn't corroborate that. So again, how much of this do you think, Ron, and I know you've got a law enforcement background. I mean, how many times do you see somebody who has a tool that feels like because they have the tool, they have to use it? I mean, how many times has the situation escalated because they don't have the training or the proper mindset or understand the law that they think, well, I've got it, I've got to use it. And that's what I think we're seeing here in this regard. It's just the lack of training and understanding of the law.
Well, I would underline primarily the lack of training. Simply because you decided to take the firearm with you on that particular occasion it does not mean that you'd have to use it.
Yeah.
And training negates that erroneous thinking.
Yeah. Well, I remember when I first took a concealed carry class, this is 20 years ago, and we had a law enforcement, I think it was a trooper that came in and talked to us, and he emphasized that the first thing about any kind of situation like this is de-escalation and retreat, right? You try and de-escalate and you retreat. That is a last resort. And like you said, jeopardy, ability, and means was what I'm paraphrasing what you said, because back then it was JAM, jeopardy, ability, and means. You have to be in jeopardy. They have to have the ability and the means to do harm to you. And if you can't articulate all three of those, then you shouldn't be using your firearm, right? But he
exactly so.
Yeah, he highlighted that you had a duty to de-escalate and retreat as best you can, and it was a last resort. And I think people have skipped right over that.
Well, and I think too that, and I have mixed feelings about it, but this stand your ground law that we do have in Alaska, I think gives people a false sense of being mandated to use the firearm.
Well, I think that's a misreading of stand your ground, because stand your ground also talks about a duty to retreat until you can't. I mean, he could have gotten in his vehicle and locked the door and been in his vehicle and been safe from this guy. You know what I mean? I mean, there's 1,000 things you can do, and I know we can backseat quarterback it all the way, but based on everything we're seeing now, I think this guy I think he's in big trouble. I think he's in big trouble over this, and we should learn.
Well, I think his living accommodation and food supply will be supplied for him by the state.
Yeah, I don't think he's going to have a problem with that for the future. All right, Ron, thank you so much for your call.
All right.
Appreciate it. I appreciate you being part of it. I see that Fred's on the line, but we got to take a quick break. So we're going to be back, and when we return, Fred from Rhode Island is calling in. We'll talk with Fred, and then we will return. The Michael Dukes Show, common sense, liberty-based, free-thinking radio. It's Firearms Friday.
If you missed the show, you can listen to it on your time with Dukes On Demand. Oh, and it's free. Like America used to be. Streaming live every weekday morning on Facebook Live and MichaelDukesShow.com.
Okay, we're in the break right now, and we are continuing ahead here. Let me go back to the chat room. Fred, I see you here on the phone. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back to you. And I just want to go, I want to go back to the chat room to see what you guys are thinking. See what you guys are thinking about this, because again, when I read this, all I could think of was what? Over the fact that maybe you were going too fast in a parking lot, somebody lost their life over something like this. How does something like that escalate to that point? It's crazy. And I will tell you, the chat room, because you guys are special. I will tell you, the chat room, that this guy apparently worked for the well, I want to make sure I get the the department right, but it's reported that this guy was a state employee who's listed as working for the Human Rights Commission. He's a field representative, a human rights field representative for the Human Rights Commission. I mean, that's just dripping with some irony there, just in case you were wondering. I mean, wow. Just wow. Greg says that's why we teach the difference in our CCW classes. Absolutely. I mean, I vividly remember that discussion when I first took that concealed carry class, that he was talking specifically about that. He was talking about, and I know they've changed the acronym now, it was JAM, which was jeopardy, ability, and means. And I know it's slightly changed now, but that's what sticks in my mind. But again, a duty to retreat. You have you may can stand your ground, but you should de-escalate. That should always be the issue. Terry says, did he lose his mind? Yeah. Chris was that. She said the one who was killed was my daughter-in-law's brother. Oh, man. That's brutal. We have been told that he shot anywhere between 4 and 10 bullets. Holy cow. Lisa says in her mind, he was waiting to use it, obviously, and his opportunity came and he took it. I just don't know. Yeah. Richie says, I remember taking a course a few years ago and our instructor made a point to tell us, even though you have a permit and can legally carry, your first train of thought should be removing yourself from the situation, again, retreating and de-escalating, etc. Yeah. I just don't even know. Richie says, wouldn't it have been easier to just say, hey, ma'am, I'm sorry, I got a little too close to your kid. I'm glad no one was hurt. Was it just too much to say, geez, I'm sorry? Whether you were too close or not, because somebody said, well, he wasn't that close. Okay, well, geez, I'm sorry. Anyway, it's JAM doesn't apply to law enforcement. Well, no, in the same way it doesn't, but they still have rules that apply in that situation. Police refer to the inside of a vehicle as a death trap. One is not safe just because there's glass. Well, I would argue that if you've got a guy who's unarmed and you feel like he's going to beat on you, being inside the vehicle would at least give you a shield of some kind. And if you're armed, I can retreat to some place where I have a shield and I'm armed. I would not have a problem with that. Besides the fact that I'm now driving a 4,000-pound weapon, if he decides to start welling me, I just drive away. Right? And then report it. Yeah. Anyway, it's just insane that this kind of stuff is happening. Just insane. And it's not just here, it's in a lot of places. And I think, again, I believe that everybody should have the ability to be armed, but I believe everybody should take the responsibility to educate themselves on the laws and to get some training. I'm not saying it should be mandated, but you should do it to protect yourselves and others. Because like Ron said, this guy's housing and food is going to be taken care of for a very long time at this point. All right, here we go.
What the hell's an assault weapon? What isn't? If I assault you with a penguin, doesn't that make it an assault weapon? Does this mean that if we hurt your feelings, you'd consider the Michael Dukes Show assault radio? Okay, we can live with that. Here's Michael Dukes.
All right, welcome back. The Michael Dukes Show. One final segment here on firearms and phone calls. Willie Waffle's coming up here in just a bit. But we've got Fred on the line calling in from Rhode Island. Fred tunes in every week to visit with us, to give us his take from the East Coast and see what's going on. Let's go over there right now. Good morning, Fred. How are you, my friend?
Hey, good morning, Michael. Yeah, calling in reference to David Codrea's, his presentation earlier.
Yes.
This whole thing with the government, the Department of Justice and a few other departments, ATF and otherwise, there's a lot of, I think there's a lot of holdovers. I mean, the administration, definitely put the progressives on the ear, but he didn't knock them all out. And problem you're dealing with these unelected bureaucrats that think they have the power of God to do whatever they want to do, and and push whatever agenda they want to push, as opposed to anything else. As to as far as like mandating a lot of these unlawful laws, unlawful regulations that they've been touting for years, and just the diehards and holdovers, and that's a good part of the problem. I think a lot of stuff that Trump is up against still, I don't know what he can do about it. I mean, just to sit there and just fire them all wouldn't necessarily be justified. So they kind of got him between a rock and a hard place as far as like trying to deal with this.
Fred, I'm going to disagree with you on that, because he could do one thing. He could direct Pam Bondi, his attorney general, to not prosecute these, or so vehemently prosecute these laws that are that we know are an infringement. And they started doing that. They started, they stopped appealing. They stopped doing several things, but yet they're still continuing on other cases. So it's like they went halfway, but they didn't go all the way.
You're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. The thing is, though, the swamp is so entrenched, like I say, with these little, self-anointed emperor bureaucrats that sit there and try, still trying to manipulate their way. That they're going to be hard to get rid of. I mean, if it were me, I just can the whole lot of them, start from ground zero. Unfortunately, that's not the way it works with unions and this and that and the other thing that protect their rights. And they, their ultimate protections as to how they can hang on to their jobs, and hang on by the skin of their teeth, but yet they hang on, and it's all just creating havoc and problems and trouble and everything else. And they don't care. This is their game. Lie, cheat, steal, and destroy until they get what they want. And this has to come to an end. This has to come to a head. I mean, he's gonna have to. I think Trump should make a decision, one way or the other. We're gonna either do it or we're not gonna do it, but we're gonna make it public and just move ahead, because this is just turning into a stalemate.
Right.
Mexican standoff, and it's not going anywhere, and it's not going to go anywhere for the next 4 years as long as this continues.
What do you think about David's comment on, things that the president can do, like the overturning of the semi-auto arms importation and the ammo importation? I mean, he could pencil whip.
I think I go back and review the whole thing from objectively from day one. What was the purpose of doing it? What was the reason behind it? And if it finds out there was collusion in there, in doing this, I call it compromise, compromise with the progressives, you scratch my back and I'll scratch yours type thing. Then you have ground. I think you have a lot of grounds to sit there and review, justifiably so, and overturn a lot of it. If it was as opposed to constitutional rights versus compromise on the in the administration law. I think there'd be a lot of opportunity there to right a lot of wrongs, if that being the case. But then again, once again, it's not what you know, it's what you can prove in court.
Right.
That's the problem.
Yeah. Well, the president could, with a wave of a pen, reverse the previous administration's movement and order on this. And I think the president should. And I agree with what David said as well, that, where's the Second Amendment, the Office of Second Amendment Protections? That's what we need. We need somebody in there that has got some people from the gun rights community and things like that to be able to give counterpoint, at least, to what the president may be hearing from some of his more pro-gun control crowd that's in the bureaucracy or even in his own administration. That's what we need. We need a counterpoint. And that's, I don't know if we're going to get that.
Well, you're not going to get that, because once again, the progressives to get everything.
Well, we lost Fred there. Fred, we lost your call. You feel free to call back and share your final thoughts with us on that. But we lost your call there at the very end. All right. We'll continue on. Phone lines are open. 319-527-3864. 319-527-3864. We're coming down to the end here. I had some other things that I wanted to go over, but I just again want to highlight the fact that if you are going to go forth armed, you really, really owe it to yourself. It goes back to the rule of three, right? The rule of three on this program is if you've decided to go forth armed, you should at least plan on investing 3 times the amount of the firearms cost in kind of the whole kit, right? So if it's a $500 pistol, then you should spend $1,500. $500 for the pistol, $500 for good quality accessories. And I'm talking about a good belt, like a duty style belt, a good holster, concealment holster, strong Kydex or leather, something that's going to protect it, that's going to be able to be used, some practice ammunition, dummy rounds, snap caps, maybe even one of those fancy smartphone, trigger pull, what I'm saying, like the X systems where you can shoot your cell phone from across the room and get accurate with it, dry fire exercises. And that final $500 needs to go towards training. And I mean, good, solid training. That's what needs to happen. And no, it shouldn't be mandated by the government, but if you're going to be a responsible gun owner, that's what needs to go on there. Absolutely. Oh, it's a frustrating thing to see. Frustrating. But it is what it is at this point. Like I said, I think this guy is going to find out exactly how wrong he was. The Michael Duke Show, common sense, liberty-based, free-thinking radio. Back with more after this.
Streaming live every weekday morning on Facebook Live and MichaelDukesShow.com.
Okay, we're in the break right now. Fred didn't call back. I don't know if he lost his cell signal or what, but we're going to go ahead and shut down the phone lines.
Goodbye.
And we'll continue that next Friday as we pick things up there. That'll be good. I guess I should change my background too here because we're gonna lighten it up now. That was kind of heavy, but it was good. We're gonna lighten it up with some Willie Waffle here in just a moment. And we'll continue on. What was the other story that I wanted to get to? I did want to comment on this because Harold, in his infinite wisdom, and I don't know if Harold's still in the chat room, but Harold said, "I have 300 concealed weapons, and 911 brings several immediately." It's amazing. What is your definition of immediately, Harold? What is your definition of immediately? Because David comments, immediately, it took troopers 28 minutes and 28 seconds for them to respond to an intruder at his house and arrest him, while it literally took for me and my Remington 870 a blinding tactical light chambered with 3-inch slugs to hold that same intruder face down in the dirt in my driveway until the trooper showed up. There's that old saying that, when seconds count, the police are only minutes away. I mean, I agree that that's what law enforcement's there to do, is to help with crime, to arrest criminals, to try and help protect us, but they are not going to be there immediately. And when seconds count, they are minutes away. I don't care if you live right in the heart of downtown, wherever, and the police response time is 2.5 minutes, which would be an incredible response time, by the way. A lot can happen in 2.5 minutes. Why are you relying on the government to provide that to you? That's the problem. I mean, I admire your faith in the system, Harold, but I think that's foolishness. The foolishness to think that when I make that phone call, they're just going to show up. And you use the word immediately. You keep using that word. I don't think it means what you think it means. Can you actually hold someone until the cops arrive, says Brian? Well, yes. And I think David is talking about, that's a real life scenario, right, David? I mean, it actually happens. I mean, I remember when I lived out on Kinnick Bay Road, we had a neighbor that called the police, and it was 29, 30, 32 minutes before they were able to show up. And that was just outside of Wasilla. If you live somewhere, Anchor Point, Kasilof, you live out towards Salcha, or you live out, towards between Fairbanks and Nenana, how long is it going to take for a trooper to arrive? How long is it going to take for a trooper to show up? It's, immediately. Frank, Harold using that word immediately. It just doesn't mean what you think it means, unfortunately, these days. Okay. All right. Well, I'm getting things ready. We got Willie coming up here in just a minute. I'm waiting for my phone to ring. And then we've also, of course, got the big radio auction, which is going to be going on in 8 o'clock and the 9 o'clock hour. So you guys should be ready for that as well. Let me close down a bunch of these windows that I don't need right now. Okay, we'll close down a bunch of those windows and boom. Okay, we're ready. We're ready for the deal here. I think. Let me do that. Okay. All right. I'm just getting logged in to the radio watch. It's what's going on. All right. Let's get to it. Alaska radio watch. Yeah, go there. Do it. I know these people. I know that these people were stealing, and these men did a citizen's arrest on the beach when they saw the stolen items. Yeah, it does happen. There's a citizen's arrest. And it's, again, that's another thing where you better be sure that you're justified, because if you're holding somebody at gunpoint, that's a whole different deal. Greg says out East End Road is well over an hour, and they may not show up at all if there isn't a trooper on duty. You got it, man. You got it right there. Okay, phone's buzzing. Willie's on hold, and we're ready to go. So please like and share, folks. Please like and follow, subscribe, ring the bell, do all the YouTube, Facebook things, all that kind of stuff. Let's get to it. And no, there are no trips to Hawaii up for auction. That would be an awesome auction item, especially here in November. That would be awesome, wouldn't it? I'd be looking forward to that. All right. Well, here we go. The Michael Dukes Show. Common sense, liberty-based, free-thinking radio. Let's get our waffle on, shall we? Okay, the weekend cannot commence without a discussion about waffles. Well, and movies. And movie waffles. And waffle movies. Willie Waffle, our movie critic, is... what kind of name is waffle? Is it... I mean, that's not Scandinavian. What is that? What is the... Give me the meaning. Where did that come from?
There is a great deal of debate about where the name came from. Now, I have always been told, and I have always known, that my waffle name was Irish. However, years ago, when I was on the radio in DC, a very kindly listener who was into tracking lineage and stuff said he had proof that I was Swedish somehow. And I don't know where that came from.
He didn't provide the proof. He just said he had it. Okay, I see. I said,
I kind of didn't want to do more than that.
I get you for sure. I just don't see.
He was a nice guy and all, but I'm just a little shy about those kind of conversations. Okay,
I'm just thinking waffles is not that Irish. Would you like a little waffle with your whiskey? I mean, it just seems weird, kind of thing.
I just want to find out if my family invented waffles, because I'm going to cash in.
Oh yeah,
okay,
exactly.
Like the Eggo company owes me a lot of money.
Yeah, hit me with that right now. It's a trademark, baby. All right, well let's get into the entertainment news as we are wont to do before we get into the movies and streams. I know you want to talk about the pit. I mean, it's just for me, it's one way or the other. But let's start with. I'm going to give you a gift. Start with the pit.
Give it. The pit. The Pit is coming to cable. It's coming to TNT. HBO Max, they know they've got a big smash hit on their hands. Emmy award-winning television show. Groundbreaking television show that lit up the world on HBO Max. Well, Season 2 is coming in January, and what better way to drum up an audience than to put all the episodes on TNT? And here's where it's getting interesting, people.
Okay.
Unedited.
Ooh.
They are going to show all the, I mean, it's in an emergency room, people, and there's some shockingly graphic scenes in this show that you're going to see on TNT.
Oh, wow.
And there's some language. It wasn't, I mean, the language always to me was like appropriate for the moment. Like it wasn't like Goodfellas where you could tell like they were just throwing it out there left and right to make them sound tougher. No, this really worked. So they're going to start doing this. They're going to show it on Monday nights on TNT starting December 1st. They're going to show a couple episodes every week, or I think three episodes every week until the big premiere on HBO Max of season 2. I can't wait. I love this show. I'm telling you, people, if you have never taken advice from me ever in the time that you have heard me on this show, take this advice right here.
Wow.
The Pit is awesome.
Okay.
The Pit, for my money, is one of the best television shows I have ever seen in my entire life.
Okay. All right. Well, and TNT is a cable company, so it's not held to the same broadcast TV standards as, FCC stuff. So, but they've shied away from that for years. They've been kind of the,
all cable has.
Yeah,
Cable has. And I'll be honest with you, I think this is opening a door. I think, a lot of the cable networks and a lot of their broadcast networks have always complained that Netflix can get better ratings or HBO can get better ratings because they're allowed to swear and they're allowed to have nudity. And I think they're opening the door on cable television to try to show more of these things. Now, showing it at what I think it's at 9 o'clock at night. That's kind of an appropriate time. You should know what your kids are watching.
Right.
I think you're going to see more and more of this. I really do.
Okay. All right. Well, so you're saying The Pit, go watch it now. Okay. All right. And it's the only place you can watch it, right? You can't watch it on HBO. You can only watch it on...
it's on HBO Max. It's on HBO Max. You can go find it.
All right.
But, if you want to watch it on TNT, that's cool too. I will say, you and I both like to kind of have the big dump of all the episodes. This is when they did The Pit, they only released one episode every week. And I looked forward to that Thursday night every single week.
Yeah, exactly. But that's old days, man. That's the olden days, back when telephones had cranks on them. So don't worry about it. Okay.
Yeah.
Let's move over to. I mean, I never watched this show. It was the '80s comedy called A Different World. It's a new one. It's the picked up, but it's a whole new deal. What's going on?
Yeah, so A Different World was a spinoff of The Cosby Show that starred Lisa Bonet for the first season, and then there was a falling out between her and Bill Cosby, and they retooled the show, and they kind of focused in more on the ensemble that was around her. And this was a popular show in the late 80s, early 90s. I want to say, I know it started in 87, ran to 93. And they're bringing it back. Yes, there is going to be a sequel to A Different World. Netflix has picked it up. We are going to follow the daughter of two of the original stars as she goes to the same college and has her college adventures as well.
Okay. No Bill Cosby, though. No Bill Cosby.
No. And that was the funny thing. Netflix was they're like, while Bill Cosby may have been credited as a creator of the original show, he has nothing to do with this. He is not a producer. He doesn't get any credit. He's not involved with our new show. Please, scare the demon away. We do not want that happening here.
All right. Let's move over to Kim Kardashian, who only plays a lawyer on TV. I saw a blurb yesterday that said she was really mad at her psychic because her psychic said that she would pass the bar exam. And this was a literal thing but she was having people take the bar exam for it. This guy, again, just a pretty face, right? That's it. And not, depending on your taste, not that pretty, but she only plays a lawyer on TV.
That's right. And by disclaimer, I will say the bar exam's hard. I can understand failing it, but Kim Kardashian failed it, so we must mock her. That's right. Kim Kardashian, who has been studying to take the California bar exam to become a lawyer, revealed that she failed her first attempt, but she's going to keep on trying, baby. She wants to be a lawyer like Daddy was. And those of you who are too young to know, Her daddy was one of the lawyers that got O.J. Simpson off for murder.
Yeah, there's something to aspire to, right? It's all good.
Oh,
yeah.
Oh,
And she's in
yeah.
this new horrible Ryan what's his face's a drama.
All's fair on
All's Fair.
Hulu. Yeah,
Playing a lawyer, but I understand this thing's a total train wreck, so we won't even get into that. But that's okay. That leaves us down to one of my to two favorite actors, Matthew McConaughey and Michael Caine. Wow, where did they dig him up from? They've teamed up. They've teamed up.
They have, and this is the future, my friends. Matthew McConaughey and Michael Caine have signed a deal with the company 11 Labs. What does 11 Labs do? Artificial intelligence, my friends.
Artificial voices.
They're going to produce virtual replications of McConaughey and Cain's voices that can be used for all sorts of commercial purposes. Matter of fact, the company, McConaughey, I think it actually has invested in this company now.
Right.
And he does like some sort of like daily or weekly newsletter that he writes, and then they use this technology to produce an audio version of his voice and in different languages. Like there's a Spanish version, there's an English version, and he's like all for it. And, listen, I think there's something to be said when the company says, listen, we're doing artificial intelligence ethically. Like we are making a deal with these people. These people are giving us permission and they're going to get money. Now, what's really cool is that they have deals with other of the estates of other famous people. John Wayne, Liza Minnelli, Liza's not with us, right? I forgot.
Right.
Babe Ruth, Maya Angelou, Laurence Olivier, famous people like Alan Turing. I mean, this is kind of wild, and I think this is the future. Matter of fact, there was even something that came out just late yesterday. Disney is entering into a deal with an artificial intelligence company. They teased that soon, when you go on Disney Plus sometime next year, you'll be able to create AI creations of your own using Disney characters. And why are they doing it? Because they're getting paid.
Jeez. All right. Well, as a voice actor, I'm not excited, but I mean, it's interesting. No. It's interesting. Yeah. And I've actually used 11 Labs for a couple things, a couple projects that I was working on, and they've got some very realistic voices. It's a little spooky. Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how they use this in the future for sure.
Oh, I do. And I think the big worry, and I agree with you. And like you said, being a voice actor, all of a sudden, hey, I can pay a little bit of money to have John Wayne do my commercial instead of Michael Dukes. Sorry, Dukes. Man, I think we know who wins that fight.
Why not put me up against the real competition? Matthew McConaughey and John Wayne. Michael Caine's going to read your ad. Oh man, it's crazy. All right, well, we'll see. We'll see if that doesn't turn into Skynet someday. It all is. Let's move over to the movies and streams. Worst to best. Let's do it that way today.
All right. Worst. That would be Playdate, my friends. The new Amazon Prime movie starring Kevin James. He's a stay-at-home dad after losing his job. And he's kind of dorky. He's more of a stepfather, or actually a stepfather. So he's trying to find ways to connect with the kid. And well, they go to the park and they meet Alan Ritchson and his son, and they seem pretty cool. And they decide to have a play date, except Alan Ritchson is kind of crazy. And well, you're going to find out how crazy if you dare to watch this movie. And okay. And there are funny moments. I'm not going to lie. Ritchson is hilarious. Okay. Like they give him all the best lines, all the craziest things to do, all the really good comedy. Kevin James is almost just like along for the ride. Like you could have put anybody in Kevin James's role and it wouldn't have mattered, to be honest with you. I think they're trying to mix a lot together here, and that's what kind of tears it down. Like it's trying to kind of be a family bonding story. It's trying to be a big wild action movie. It's trying to be an unconventional, wacky, hilarious comedy. And at some points it's very good. At some points, well, it really stinks. And that's why I'm at 1.5 waffles.
Oh, that's too bad. Alan Richson is a funny guy. I mean, he is a funny guy. I would love to see him do something good for that. All right. So that's the worst. Middle of the pack. What do we got?
Now You See Me, Now You Don't. Number 3 in the Now You See Me trilogy. And I've just always dug these movies. I'm a sucker for the big illusions and the magic. And I know some of it is all CGI, but some of it's real. And the idea here is that our original 4 horsemen, right? Woody Harrelson and Isla Fisher, Dave Franco, Jesse Eisenberg, they are recruiting some young bucks. So this young group that idolizes them to try to take down a criminal enterprise. Yes, and the criminal enterprise is led by Rosamund Pike, and she's a good villain, man.
Oh, she is
she's a really good villain. She is like awesomely over the top in every way, like just chewing the scenery at every turn. And I enjoyed it. I'm into it. I mean, you're not supposed to take these movies that seriously. They're popcorn. They're fluff.
Right.
They're just, watch the pretty illusions, go ooh, ah, and then kind of follow this plot that's kind of all over the place. But I'm at 3 waffles. You're going to have a good time if you see Now You See Me, Now You Don't.
I could smell some bias in there. I'm just going to say it right now. I think I could smell some waffle bias in there right now. All right. Well, that brings us down. We got just about 2 minutes now then to run over The Running Man, which I will say right now, I'm into this. I want to watch this. It looks so great. The Running Man.
Well, we did go from worst to best. Yeah,
Ooh,
this is the best this week. So it is Glenn Powell in a remake of the movie from the 80s, but based on the book. Was it a Stephen King book? It has to be a Stephen King book.
Yep.
But yeah, and I'll tell you why in a minute. So totally over the top. Crazy, right? It's a dystopian future, right? The chasm between the haves and the have-nots is obscene, and he's a have-not, and he's been marked as somebody who just doesn't play the game. He wants safety protocols at work. He thinks they should unionize. He thinks that maybe poor people should have health care. Oh, he's a villain of the state, and his only chance to get the money needed to take care of his family is to try out for one of the many game shows that people play on to try to get money and entertain all the rich people, except he gets stuck on The Running Man, where you have to survive for 30 days to win $1 billion, and nobody has survived 30 days.
And the whole world is after you, right? This is not just like he's got a few hunters. This is like the entire world is after you.
Yeah, the whole world is after you. There are hunters that are part of the show. There are prizes for people who rat on you if they see you. There's prizes if they take you out. There's all sorts. I mean, basically, it's you against the world for 30 days. And what I enjoyed about it, okay, first, some good action. I think Glenn Powell's a really good leading man. I want to see him fighting for what's right. I want to see him fighting for justice. I think there's a lot of really cool themes going through the entire movie about, the haves and the have-nots. And how are we being separated as a society, and why aren't we sticking together more? I'm at 3 waffles for The Running Man. I really liked it.
All right, well, good. So a couple of good ones this week. I'm glad. I'm looking forward to it. I can't wait. It's in theaters. We're gonna have to wait for it, but we're out of time, folks. We'll see you on Monday. Have a great weekend. The trailers. And it's Josh Brolin and a bunch of other folks, and he plays a baddie. But there's just a lot of good, character actors, people that I've seen, people that you would know, and it looks like it's just an adrenaline fueled rush for the whole thing. Is what the trailer makes it look like.
Well, it is, and I think it also gets a little bit more cerebral through the movie because as he's going on this adventure. Who are the people who are going to help him? It's the downtrodden. It's the people who know that the system is rigged against us, and we need a guy like this to rise up. We need a guy like this to inspire the poor of the world to say we've had enough. We're not going to be taken advantage of anymore. We're not going to be the drones who produce the riches for you. I mean, that is really kind of cool. And I had to laugh because at one point he does have to hide out in Derry, Maine. And I was like, oh yeah, Stephen King wrote this. I remember now.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Well, I can't wait, man. I think this is going to be great. I'm looking forward to it. Yeah, I think Glenn Powell really is going to be. He's like the hot guy of this generation. He's been doing a lot of great movies lately.
Yeah, he has, and they even showed a trailer for a new movie he's going to have in February that looks kind of interesting. He's the lost heir of a massive fortune, but to get it, he has to kill the other 7 people in front of him in line, and that looked really cool.
I like it. We're gonna have to check it out. All right, so 3 waffles for The Running Man in theaters. What's next week? Give it to me quick here. What do we got?
Oh, next week, that would be Wicked for Good. It's time to start singing in the aisles again.
No, I didn't watch the first one. I probably going to watch that. Man, I feel like such an old fuddy-duddy these days. I'm like, no, not going to watch that one. No, I just realized there's only so many more sunsets that I get, and I just don't want to waste it on something that doesn't sound great. You know what I mean? That's just kind of how I feel these days.
Know what you mean. There's so many things out there. You got to just pick the good stuff.
Yeah. All right. Well, Willie Waffle Movies. No, I didn't do it. See, it was so close.
That's okay.
Movie critic extraordinaire. All right, my friend. It's good to talk with you. We'll catch you later. Okay.
All right. I'll talk to you soon,
folks. We'll see you on Monday. Be kind. Love one another. Live well. The Michael Duke Show.